Welcome to Fairwind's Medical Healthcare Unscripted Podcast. I am honored and thankful to have our guest today, Mr. Joe Bingold. He's the CEO of Exo Armor Technology. I'm Dr. Chris Leslie, orthopedic surgeon. Welcome, Joe. Pleased to have you here.
Good to be here. Nice to see you, Dr. Leslie.
Thank you. So I've seen your products on the sidelines for years, and you certainly are gaining what I would call market share. And it's a pleasure to meet the man behind the products. Your presence in sports is certainly expansive and impressive. You're just in almost every professional and college league. How did that come about? How did you go down that road? Because obviously it's a successful road.
Yeah, good question. The answer to how we got into sports and really expanded our presence in sports really goes back to our founding. In our founding days out of Auburn University, it was with Dr. Michael Zabala in his laboratory. He is a mechanical engineering professor and happened to know the athletic director for the football team quite well. And so one of their star receivers had broken a couple bones in their hand, and they really wanted him to play in a couple weeks against Texas. And so, hey, could you immobilize this? This is all how it all began. And so they took him to the lab, they scanned his hand, they made a 3D model, and then they 3D printed a guard that could go right over there, over the bones, immobilize that part of his hand, but still fit underneath his glove. No one knew he had it on. And so he practiced with it, worked really well, and the company was born. Had a game-winning catch, all the right things you need to get the excitement about it. And so from there, Dr. Zabala recognized that this is a really great technology in athletic programs. If you think about it, football athletes especially get hurt all the time. They're interesting shaped people, very big, all sorts of stuff going on, right? And so wouldn't you want custom fitting gear, musculoskeletal injury devices to help them? So starting at Auburn University and quickly expanding from there, the Exo Armor solution was born. And basically, as you know, we provide the printer, we provide a scanner and software. So athletic trainers in college football programs, all sorts of college programs can now use our technology to scan their athletes, adjust the scan as they need, and then 3D print something on site to either prevent an injury or protect from an injury, after an injury for rehabilitation.
I think that's really what differentiates you from your competitors, certainly. I want to go back to something I've said to you before. Engineers are always the smartest guy in the room, so it's great that this has an engineering background to it. Also, I think the fact that you are on the sidelines is a really significant part of why you're succeeding and why you make it accessible to the trainers and to the coaches, and they can get a rapid result. So that's a very interesting space to be in. Is that something that I'm sure you have found it successful, but I'm sure it's something that you also are wanting to expand.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, the key to the technology and our expansion into healthcare in general. If you start, when we started, a scan would get submitted to our engineers, and they would actually make all the adjustments and then send the 3D model back to the printer on site, and it would 3D print. And that was really an effective way to get going as a company. But what we had to do is figure out, how can you scan a hand and then make something like this that would perfectly fit but have no engineer involved? Because that's scalable. That grows the business. And so what we did is we developed a software package that made it so people with no CAD experience, no mechanical engineering experience, could take a scan of a body, just using simple, Microsoft Paint level of sophistication, decide where they want to cover the body, and then hit print, and it comes right out. And that is what we learned from the athletic trainers. That's what we learned from them, is like they have all sorts of interesting ideas and designs, but they don't have the ability to design it themselves in CAD software, and they shouldn't.
True.
So that's what we came in with, that special piece. And once we were able to do that, then now we can start doing it for all sorts of things. We can do it for little things, for pediatrics. We can do, stuff for the feet and large stuff. And all of a sudden, the world opened up to us when we provided that ability to the practitioner rather than keeping it inside.
So that's kind of where you made the transition from not just sports, but also into healthcare,
That's right.
because that's obviously the large market. So is that how that the
Exactly.
genesis of?
Exactly. We recognize that one, you can't scale. You can't have thousands and thousands of engineers designing all day long. This is not scalable. So you needed to be able to enable the practitioner, and then furthermore, we are not the experts on medical devices, on orthoses. Yes, we know how to design things, we know how to print things, but the experts are you, Dr. Leslie. You're the one, and all the practitioners, they're the ones who have the expertise. We want them to design the components, not us.
I think that's a very interesting point, and I appreciate that. But I think the thing that makes you so user friendly to me as an orthopedic surgeon is you quickly adapt, and the orthoses are there very, very quickly, which is not the historical background of orthoses. Typically it was measure, send it off, takes weeks to get made, and then come back. But you have changed that dynamic.
Absolutely. That's probably one of the biggest game changers that we're providing the market is this ability to do something right on site and same day. And so, an ankle foot orthotic, as you know, is a critical device for a lot of patients, and it could take 2-3 weeks before you get that device back to your office, and maybe it fits. If it doesn't, there's another cycle, right? Now you can do it same day.
Historically, I've always said that process was basically one size fits no one. And so you guys have really changed that because it is a custom fit, custom design. So let me ask you a little bit about what feels different for you for building for clinics and hospitals compared to athletic teams.
Wonderful question. There's a lot. There are frankly more differences than I was expecting. I'll be honest. When I saw the technology, and I came to the company in 2023, so the company already had about 4 years of runtime, been in a lot of athletic programs, and I come in because Dr. Zabal is a professor. He doesn't want to be CEO, and that's my jam. I love leading companies, growing technology. So I come in, I see this technology, and having a little bit of a healthcare background in my prior company, I'm like, there's a great fit for healthcare here. I've seen occupational therapists molding things. Here's an example of something you can mold. We actually can 3D print an orthoplast, and then they can warm it up and they can mold it. So I've seen that in my prior company, and I thought, wonderful. We'll take this existing technology that's doing great in sport and just move it right over. But a couple differences. First off, workflow. In an athletic training facility, athletes all come in after practice or a game, and then the athletic trainers could just scan them all. They go off, things print, the next day or whatever, they're ready to go. But that's not the way a doctor's office works. Patients come in at a scheduled time, they get seen for a certain amount of time, and then they leave. And so adding something new like a 3D printer to that workflow creates challenges. Not overcomable challenges, but you got to find the right fit, the right workflow. And the second big difference is reimbursements. In athletic offices, you're not too worried about reimbursements. They're simply there to make sure the athlete is healthy, not worry about the insurance component, Medicare. But now we do have to worry about that. And so very overcomable because all these things are completely reimbursable. You get the nice Medicare rates and all that the financial income. But our software has to accommodate for that. We have to add new things like tracking and the right L codes and all the things you need to properly reimburse. Overcomable, and we already added that to the software, but there's some things that we had to adjust in order to properly address the healthcare market.
So that is a huge factor in my work, and oftentimes either I was reluctant to or the patient was reluctant to have those things made. Because of the time frame involved, and when you don't get something back for 2 or 3 weeks and they've been in something very uncomfortable like an OCL splint, they don't like that. And then they also it's the reimbursement issue, and patients are surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, but they are certainly aware of that, and that makes some of them reluctant to go down that road. So I think that you have taken that out of the equation, and I think that's a really important part, not only as a practitioner, but also from the patient perspective. And I think that that's a winning combination for you. So where do you think from a clinical and practice perspective, you may have just already answered this, do you feel that the biggest impact shows up? In my opinion, it's how quickly you're able to do it, but also the reimbursement factor. Because as a practitioner, I'm reluctant to prescribe something for somebody that my clinic is going to lose money on.
Exactly.
And you have taken that out of the equation. That's terribly important.
I agree. So certainly the real-time nature of the product, the customization that can happen right there on site, so that you don't have to try to write notes and transcribe it, and hopefully someone gets it right. So you can decide right there.
Very true.
Right? The reimbursement, but then here, and then this is the fourth one. So we've got good reimbursement, real-time, custom, and then the fourth one is fit. Again, if this perfectly fits my body and it feels good, I don't even know I'm wearing it. And when I don't know I'm wearing it, I'm going to wear it longer, I'm going to wear it more, which means I'm better compliant to the instructions for my rehabilitation, and therefore I heal better.
Immediately. And also the patient or the athlete walks out knowing that you have done something for them right there on site, and it is a game changer. You know, I mean, even if it's my 70-year-old lady with a broken ankle, that makes a difference to her, as opposed to me putting her in, again, an OCL or a boot or something that doesn't really fit. And they do appreciate that. But I want to underscore the fact that you have taken the reimbursement part of the equation out of it, and you reach all insurance for Medicare, commercial. I mean, you cover all of that. How did that come to be? Because I think you may be the only company that does that.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. We did hire an FDA consultant who was also an expert in reimbursements. And one of the things we had to understand is if you 3D print a device, what does that mean? Does it count? Is it an allowed way of making a custom device? Fortunately, a few years ago, Medicare actually posted a paper on this and said, yes, indeed. If you do additive manufacturing for a device, that counts as much as you make any other device. And by its very nature, additive manufacturing is almost always custom. You can make standard things, in which case you would reimburse under a standard shape and size rather than custom. But in either case, you can make a device, and at the end of the day, it's the practitioner who provides it to the patient. Exo Armor, we're helping manufacture, but we're not providing it to the patient, and that's the key. So just as if you were to make something out of an orthoplast or make something out of some sort of taping material and it hardens, and you use that to provide to the patient, you could similarly manufacture it on a printer and make it. And so fundamentally then what we've done is we've aligned ourselves perfectly with the way that you as an office will make a device today and then go seek reimbursement.
So I think that's a pretty key element into, as a prescriber, why I would go down that road. You have on-site rapid production. There's no cutting, trimming, or cleanup to it. If the device is broken, you can immediately reprint it.
Right.
Correct.
That's right.
So there's no manufacturer delays.
And even more, sorry to interrupt, but let's say it's not broken, but let's say for some reason, maybe there's swelling in the skin or some wound, and it just bothers them, right in one little zone, like it's bothering me right here. You just go to the design file, it's on your computer there. You can put a little offset, a little bubble or something in the file. It takes you 3 clicks. Hit print, make a new one. Now it doesn't bother them.
Well, that's a really good point. Also, as the patient's swelling goes down and they need to readjust it, we can do that quickly.
The other way, that's right.
So let's go back to an open reduction endothelial fixation on an ankle, and as that swelling goes down, they don't like wobbling around in a boot that they don't feel secure in, and so we can adjust that basically immediately.
Exactly right.
Yeah, and so from a patient appreciation, but more importantly from a patient compliance standpoint, that's really important, because I can tell you as a practitioner how many thousands of times I've had patients who come back in and they're not wearing whatever it is, and it's like, well, I didn't like it.
Why?
Yeah, it didn't fit. So they just stop wearing it. It's like,
Yeah,
well, that's going to change your recovery a little bit
it
here.
does.
So
Yep.
I think that that's a very important adjustment that you have made to the market. So is this reimbursable as a custom DME, or how is that?
We provide both ways, actually. So, yes, if you scan the body and then use that scan to 3D print a device, that's custom. It perfectly aligns to your body, and it is clearly within the realm of custom DME, and they'll get reimbursed under those L codes. We also provide the ability for practices and clinics to 3D print standard devices. Perhaps you need a common orthosis, some sort of insert, or actually ring splints are a good example. Often you need something, and you just have to have these ring splints at the ready. Well,
Right.
you can go in our software and just click the standard stuff you want, have it 3D printed, sits there on the shelf, you take one off, you 3D print a new one. And those are all standard devices, of course, and so they would reimburse under the standard device L codes, but either way, you get reimbursed.
Okay, that's really important, I think. Again, not only from the practitioner's prescribing standpoint, but from the patient compliance standpoint. So how does EXO prioritize and decide where to move forward in their market?
I'll be honest. I mean, I'm being honest the whole time, but this is actually a really challenging thing for us, and that is why the Fairwinds partnership has been amazing. Because in my mind, I could say, oh, we make these cool things, and go get this this cargo split or something, and that's what we will make all our money on. But Fairwinds has all the expertise in the market. They have the connections with the practitioners, with the distributors, with the DME providers, all the different people who can tell us exactly what is getting the highest reimbursements, what's not well served in the market, and how can this technology be most immediately beneficial. And because of that, we've made several improvements and changes to our product. We decided that we're going to focus this first quarter on more foot and ankle type devices. And so we've done that. We had new things. In fact, we created the ability to print stuff in foam. So you can see this kind of bending here. This is actually a foam, 3D printed foam orthoses that, because of the Fairwinds influence, we've been able to really hone in where we're going to hit it in the healthcare market, and they're helping us to define all those different key criteria to be successful.
That makes perfect sense, especially from the standpoint of I do think Fairwinds Medical brings to you the distributorship, which is really important because those are the people who are on the front lines and that they can tell you what's working and what's not working. I think that's very important. I want to ask you a little bit about the orthotic part of your company because that's one of the most needed but poorly served areas certainly in my practice, and I would say in podiatric practices. They're just not very good. So you have changed that dynamic because you've been able to custom fit.
That's right. You're 100% correct in terms of it's a bit of an underserved market, and you can get custom orthotics, as you know, but it takes time. And
it's expensive.
And you have to outsource it typically, and a couple weeks later it comes back. And so, thanks to the Fairwinds leads and the different input that we've had from them, we were able to take our standard orthotics. We had every size, from small feet up to large, and different, arch size and heel depths and all the different widths. And then we were able to take that database and capability, and from there added a whole new suite to our software where you can now scan a foot. You can go from a standard design and customize it, or just go from a custom design from the start, make all those adjustments, print it right on site, and it takes about an hour to make a print like that. And if the patient loves it, great. But often with feet, it's, once you start standing on, moving, there's something that's not quite right. No problem. Got the software there, make that adjustment, and the same day they have something that's been adjusted for them, perfectly fits their feet, and they're quite happy.
Yeah, I would agree, and that applies again not only to my older patients, but also to my athletes as well. And the athletes are typically the ones who need some type of readjustment because once you fit it in the office, it's different from when they're on the field or on the court,
Right.
And then they can feel that difference. and they're able to come back and say, hey, I don't like the way this is rubbing on my distal fibula. I need you to adjust that. And again, you can do that basically on site. And that is definitely a game changer. So shifting gears a little bit, being in the med tech industry, and you are certainly growing and expanding with that, but as you see other med tech companies come into this market, what do they typically underestimate that they need to do? And I would reference this to the point that I think you have hit the nail on the head of being on site and do it quickly, and you can listen and make those adjustments. So I would assume that a lot of med tech companies just don't get that dynamic, that basically you've got to have boots on the ground there to make those adjustments.
Yes, the value proposition has to be complete. That's one way I think about it. You can say, hey, it's same day, but if you can't customize it, then what? Or it's customized, but it's not reimbursable, then what? You have to be able to really complete the full value proposition.
Yeah, I want to interject here. The typical thing historically would be I just pull something off the shelf, and if it fits, good. If it doesn't,
Right. That's right. And now what you just mentioned is I think for med tech companies in general, is understanding workflow is so important. So historically, like you said, Dr. Leslie, you go to the shelf, pull something off, and put it on the person. Well, scanning and 3D printing on site, that doesn't align with pulling something off the shelf and just giving it to someone. That's a different workflow.
Right.
And there's ways that you can accommodate that workflow, but you need, as a med tech company, you've got to be thinking about that well in advance. You've got to have your customers tell you how they would accommodate that workflow, because those who truly want it, how would they do it? And then learn from that. And it's always about learn. And as you learn, you can adjust your own product, perhaps your own value proposition, to accommodate the workflow that they would be happy with using your product.
Again, I think that makes sense. So who does the scanning and how are they trained?
The scanning is typically done by a clinician, not necessarily the doctor who's working with the patient or doing the surgery, but someone who's in recovery or, pre or post surgery. And it's because the scanning is so simple. It literally is, we have a device that has a screen on one side, an image recognition on the other. You simply just go around the person, scan them, and it pops out right there. So very simple to scan. We also have scanning aids for some more complex things, like if you want to do the sole of the foot and the ankle simultaneously. It's a bit of an angle you have to give, so we have a scanning aid to help with that. Then that takes 30 seconds. The scan's in 30 seconds. You're done. And so it seems like often people think, oh, it's going to be difficult to scan. And then they try it and like, oh, super easy. And so then it goes to our computer software. And that's where you spend about 3 or 4 minutes making adjustments. And then once you're done with that, and again, the same person. We make this so that you don't have to have the highest level of education. You simply have to understand the basics of human anatomy and what you want to accomplish. And then you can make the adjustments to the scan, and then you hit print.
So I think that's what makes it easy for me as a practitioner, because typically I see the patient, I make the diagnosis, and I say, you need this. And then I hand it off to either my PA or the physical therapist or whatever, and they are the ones that then make that work. I don't see it again, so they come back and see me 2 to 4 weeks later, and they either tell me that I love this or this doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And so, I think I think there's a common misconception that as the prescriber that I'm the one who does it. I don't.
No, you don't.
You
don't.
Yeah.
And again, to align with your workflow, Dr. Leslie, that's the same thing here. The physical therapist, your assistant, they will actually do the scan per your direction. They will design the device and print it.
And I think that is, again, I think it's a game changer, because as you well know, historically, I would prescribe something and then send it off somewhere. And then, it would show up weeks later. Whereas now, my patients get immediate satisfaction from the standpoint that when they walk out of the office, they have it.
They have it.
Which is huge.
And guess what? They tell their friends. They say, hey, do you see what Dr. Leslie did for me? He made this thing right on site, 3D printed it. Whoa, I want to go see Dr. Leslie.
No, that's 100%. It definitely affects my practice from that standpoint, especially I can, for lack of a better phrase, advertise my business with it because I can put some type of logo on it,
Yes,
correct?
you can. That's another thing that doctors request is, hey, can I put my practice logo on there? Of course. Hit click, there it is. Now it'll 3D print just like everything else.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many times I've had my patients sitting in a physical therapy clinic somewhere and with my brace on, with my logo on it, and the guy next to him goes, "Hey, where'd you get that? Where'd that come from?" So it definitely, it impacts my practice in a very positive way, and I think that was very smart of you guys to do that. So going back to your history with the company, when did you really feel like things just started to take off? Because from my perspective, you guys are just really, really growing. And when you look at the market that you came into, it was pretty well saturated, but it also wasn't really very responsive.
Correct.
And I think that you have made a difference there.
Yes, when you think about growing a med tech company or any company, you want to make sure you have all sorts of alignment, your value proposition aligned with customer need. An important thing to get aligned on is the business model. How are you as a company going to make money doing what you do and still providing value to your customer? And when I joined the company, they had great traction in different sports programs and different colleges. And it was a pay-per-use model where, you would pay a fairly hefty fee every time you wanted to make a part. And so what that did was it made it so that you would only use the technology if you really wanted it, because you got to pay that extra fee to get the thing. And I looked at that model and I thought to myself, we're not incentivizing our customers to use the product. In fact, we're incentivizing them to use it only a limited amount. I want to incentivize them to use it all the time. Don't use it for just the complex stuff. Use it for everything. And so came up with a new business model and it has different flavors to it, but basically it's kind of like a subscription, sort of a monthly subscription, and you just pay a certain amount, but you're always paying that amount. But then again, you're always using the technology, and you're getting different devices at a fraction of what we were charging before. And so that became sort of this annual agreement that we had with our customers where, hey, you sign up for a year. If you don't like it after a year, go ahead and stop. But if you like it, keep going. And here's when I knew I had traction.
That's really good. Go ahead.
I knew I had traction when our renewal rate from our customers was 100%. Because that signaled to me, okay, they like the model, they like the product, and they want to keep with it. And even more, all of our customers who renewed, they said, we don't want to just go for 1 year. I want to do a 3-year renewal or a 2-year renewal. So again, that was a signal to me that, yep, we have really good traction. Now we keep growing this business model.
I find that fascinating. So looking at who your customers are, is it mostly physicians, or is it athletic directors, or is it coaches? And because you are expansive in the athletic world.
We are.
And how do you grow that?
Yeah, so we are expansive in the athletic world, and so therefore a lot of our customers are professional teams, college programs, and military. We have military use too. And most typically, the person who's using it also is the one who is working on the contract with us and doing the business negotiation. So typically an athletic trainer in the sports world. As we grow in medical, that's changing, of course. It's sometimes a practice manager. It's sometimes a very forward-thinking physician's assistant or clinician, sometimes the doctor. So it seems to vary more on the healthcare front with who we typically interact with. And as we grow, we're relying more and more on the Fairwinds team to help us streamline those interactions and make it really easy to repeat the sales.
So yeah, that again makes perfect sense. But I assume you're talking, like when you're talking to hospitals, you're looking to talk to the director of the physical therapy department, because they're the ones that make those decisions.
Yeah, typically it's the director level of a department, and typically it's the department that does the post-care care, right? So after the surgery, the ones that are taking care of things. And what I found is that sometimes that's internal to the hospital, sometimes that's external. Sometimes hospitals will use third parties and they'll come in and that third party will provide that service. So now I'm actually dealing with a third party for that hospital. And then sometimes the hospitals or clinics don't even have it in-house at all, and then they'll outsource to someone else. And so then you have to have a discussion of, all right, well, do I want to go talk with that person? Or do you want to now, for the first time ever, bring that in-house and do it more effectively, potentially have a new
Wow.
revenue stream.
That's interesting. Yeah, yeah. I would assume that you do have a fair percentage of people that do want to do that, because obviously they're all looking for a revenue stream, and if this is profitable for them,
Right.
so yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. So, are there any other things here that you want to touch on? Because you've been a wonderful guest to have, and I've learned a lot. So, are there any other aspects of Exo Armor technology that you want to expand upon?
I appreciate the question. I think we've covered the fundamentals of our business model. We've covered why we are having success in the market and as we're growing. And I think looking forward, we're just going to expand into more and more parts of the body that we can help protect and rehabilitate. So some of the larger joints, some of the things around the spine, these are areas where, again, not great products on the market today that can be customized for the needs of the
Yeah,
patient.
that's an understatement. Yeah.
So if we can provide that, then we will. We continue to expand our materials. We have a rigid, we have a semi-rigid, we have this foam that we do now, which is very impressive. You can 3D print the foam, do liners and things to be soft against the skin. And we're expanding our ability to interface with standard joints. So like if you have a hinge mechanism that you like, a tamarack joint maybe, then we can have that in the design, and you simply say, yeah, I want this kind of joint here, and then the design will automatically accommodate that joint, and you can put it in.
So I want to go back to what you were just saying there with regard to foot orthotics. Historically, they've always been, rigid, hard, and everybody hates those. But then when they started to come out with the foam, the problem with the foam was that they weren't custom fit and they didn't typically fit.
That's right.
So you have really changed that, because again, like we talked about a little bit before, the patient's physical comfort with whatever it is that you prescribe for them makes all the difference whether they wear it or not.
It does. It does. And whether or not they think happily about the service they were provided.
Exactly, and that reflects on me
It
too.
does. It does.
Yeah, because if they don't like what I prescribe, So thinking about prophylactically with regard to sports teams, are you in that market at all? I assume with knee braces, but also I'm thinking about ankle braces and foot orthotics, because those are the three big areas that I would say off the top of my head you can make a difference in whether the patient gets injured, and then also, of course, with their recovery.
That's such a good question, and when, frankly, not something I was thinking a lot about when I joined the company. I was thinking about it from a rehabilitation standpoint. And to answer your question, we do a lot with foot and ankle today in sports. Knees coming, but not yet. But think about preventing injury, like you just said. So there's ankle stirrups, a good device where you can help stabilize the ankle so you don't twist or bend in the wrong direction, but you keep it in this direction. And those, easy enough to customize. You can 3D print them, and so now we're seeing folks who are coming up with their own version of ankle stirrups, own version of different things like turf toe, things like that, and they 3D print it, and they ensure that their athletes stay healthy so they don't have to rehabilitate them later.
So I think that's a really good point because, probably over the last 10, 15 years, pretty much every football lineman was wearing a brace. A knee brace. But now you're starting to see that more into the foot and ankle area. And I think that is a market that definitely is needed. And if you can, I'll say teach, for lack of a better phrase, the athletic trainers and the coaches to use this prophylactically to keep their athletes from getting injured, that is a difference maker.
It certainly is. It certainly is. So we have a lot of our athletic programs who over half the athletes are wearing something that's been 3D printed. And they simply prepare them all ahead of time. It's lined up on a table. Athletes just grab their guard, whatever it is, slap it on their body, use it, and then when they're done, they just throw it back in the bin, and it gets sorted, and it's ready for the next practice or the next game. And the injury rates are going down because you've protected the body better.
Absolutely. And I assume that you also put the university's logo on it, which they like, I would assume.
They do. Now that one actually has a little bit more challenge. They could put it on themselves, but we stay away because there's trademark issues and all that sort of thing.
Good point.
We gotta be careful there.
Good point. That makes a good point. So again, this is Joe Bingold. He's the CEO of Exo Armor Technology. Joe, I thank you for your time today. I appreciate your expertise and your explanation. Really important things that we're doing, not just in the sports world, but in our everyday practices with patients. And the products that you have out there and that you continue to expand are certainly game changers. I want to thank you again for your time and your expertise, and I look forward to working with you again.
Thank you, Dr. Leslie. The pleasure was mine.